Hello everybody and welcome back to the Open Door with me, Mickey. So I'm going to be honest, today I'm going to talk to you about something that I'm actually terrible at giving and even worse at receiving. And this is a piggyback off of last week's lesson about how to disciple people who may not want to hear what you have to say. And I read from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And in there it talks about how part of our job is to admonish the idle or admonish the sinner. It is that difficult. I mean, it is so hard. I'm not good at it because I feel like I lack tremendous courage. And I'm not good at receiving admonition from others either. I get defensive, I get offended, and it's really hard. So it's super delicate because nobody likes being reminded of their faults, and it's really difficult and unpleasant to tell that to someone else that you really care about when they're sort of falling short of God's plan for them. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about admonition of the sinner and how we can do that, hopefully give you some practical advice, although you're getting this advice from someone, again, who's terrible at doing it and then terrible at receiving it. So we'll see how it goes. Our very purpose in life is to enjoy eternal salvation with God in heaven. The greatest obstacle to that is sin. So what do we have to do? So the first thing that we have to be willing to do is to tackle sin in our own lives. And the second thing that we have to do is be willing to help others in that journey to resist sin and get to heaven. And this is where admonition of the sinner comes into play. All right, so what does it mean to admonish? To admonish someone means to advise or to counsel or warn someone against the sin that you see in their lives. Now, this is not just about saying, hey, you're doing something wrong, you need to get it together, my friend. That's not what admonishing the sinner is about. So admonishing the sinner's main purpose is for the reforming of the person's soul. We don't want sin to spread. We don't want it to spread in our lives, and we don't want it to spread in the lives and the souls of the people that we care about. So our main purpose in admonishing the sinner should be the reforming of the soul of that person, a call to conversion, a turning back to a life of holiness and away from sin. And one thing to remember is that admonishing the sinner is actually a spiritual work of mercy, and it is good, and it is something that all of us are called to. In Matthew chapter 18, verses 15, here's what Jesus says. If your brother sins, go tell him his fault between you and him in private. All right, so one of the very first things that we have to remember when admonishing the sinner is to seek out our brothers and sisters in Christ privately, right? That in the context of relationship, in a context based in the virtue of charity and love, is the most effective way to admonish a sinner and for the reformation of that person's soul to happen. Remember, do not ever admonish the sinner in public. Not on social media. Stay away from that if your purpose is to reform the soul of another. Posting people's dirty laundry on social media is not productive. Don't post things on Facebook, Twitter, group messaging. Those things are not productive. Admonishing the sinner should be a humbling experience, not a humiliating one. So here's just a few steps. First step, admonish yourself first. The phrase, do what I say and not what I do, is not a productive evangelization tool. So reform yourself first. If that means, if you start noticing something about someone that you really feel called to address, the first thing is to do an examination of conscience, go to confession if necessary, and really work on purifying your soul so that you can be operating under a clear mind, a clear soul, in order to best discern the most effective way to talk to your brother or sister in Christ. The last thing that I call you to do in this spiritual work of mercy is to pray on it. If there is someone who you know is sinning, it is our call and our duty and an act of charity, an act of mercy, to call them to conversion. So if you know that this is something that God is calling you to, pray on it. Ask God first for courage. Ask Him for prudence and wisdom, that you can act in a way and at a time that it's actually effective. Because we can start throwing out all kinds of oh, you're sinning, you're doing this. But if it doesn't if it's not done in the context of charity, if it's not effective, then what have we done? We have just instilled resentment in the soul of the other person instead of calling them into a deeper relationship with God. So pray on it, pray on it, pray on it. Go to adoration and sit there and maybe write out a letter or ask God for the words that He wants you to use. So again, I hope that this is helpful. Again, it's coming from someone who's not good at it at all. I'm not good at giving it, and I'm not good at receiving it. But again, I hope this was helpful. And just remember, greater than all of our bodily needs is our spiritual need to be free from sin. And what an amazing gift that we as disciples of Christ can provide to help people break free of those chains. And recognize that they may not be receptive at first, and there might be hurt feelings or harsh feelings, but hopefully they understand, because of the way that you framed it, that you acted out of charity and love. May our chains of sin be set free and our relationship with God grow. I hope that you have a really great week ahead. If this is something that you are struggling with, know that I am praying for you. If it is something that you find difficult to receive, know that I am praying for you. Because remember, it is an act of mercy. It is our calling as disciples of Christ to call other people into a deeper life with Jesus Christ Himself.